everybody. For this week's This or That, I will be discussing Marianismo and its impacts on Chicanas and Latinas. I will be discussing this from a positive perspective and a negative perspective based on the research that I found. So what is Marianismo? This is the gender-based expectations that are placed onto women of Latin America or Hispanic cultures. And these expectations are based on the ideals and teachings of La Virgen de Guadalupe. So basically being docile, being, feminine, being submissive, being the caretaker of the family. Just those sort of female expectations that are placed onto women across all ethnicities. However, specifically for Marianismo and women of Latin America, these are teachings and ideals that are based off La Virgen de Guadalupe. So what does research tell us about the impact that this has on Chicanas and Latinas? So I found a study that was done by Monica El Gallegos and Chris Segrin. This was done in 2023, so a fairly recent research. And these two researchers explored the role of social relationships and traditional gender norms in Latina health. They did so by utilizing the Hockley and Casipo's theoretical model of loneliness and health as a framework. Loneliness is often proposed as a key component in the relationship between the Latina gender norm of Marianismo and health. What they had found was that being Latina had no real association with silencing oneself to maintain the harmony of Marianismo. So maintaining, the harmony of the family. So, as I said, it had no real association with loneliness or health outcomes. These results kind of tell us that the elements of Marianismo can play a protective role in Latina health and well-being, particularly when Latinas endorse the positive aspects of the gender norm that place women at the center of their families. And these results will also help explain the Latino health paradox by providing more specificity in the links between Latina ethnicity and positive health outcomes. So this was pretty surprising to me because when I came into this research, I had sort of a negative perspective of Marianismo just based on my own personal experiences with my mom, my abuela, my tias, and seeing how Marianismo has affected my friends and my cousins and things like that, just all the women in my life. So this research was honestly very surprising to me. So let's talk about the research process real quickly. So the study included 178 female adults who were identified as Latina or non-Latina white. The majority, 75% of Latina participants who specified their ethnic background were of Mexican descent, and the participants ranged from 19 to 88, and the majority were married. The study was done by survey, which was available online and in paper format, and in two languages, English and Spanish. And the main measures of the research was Marianismo, health practices, loneliness, and depression. So these were their results. So on the left side is the positives, on the right side is the negatives. So we'll go over the positives. The findings first revealed that identifying as Latino was not associated with silencing self-Marianismo, and silencing self-Marianismo was not associated with loneliness. This could also be related to younger and more acculturated Latinas being less inclined to embrace more restrictive aspects of traditional cultural gender norms. For example, restraining one's communication to maintain harmony in the family, while older and less acculturated Latinas continue to embrace the norm as a way of maintaining cultural tradition, which this really stood out to me because this feels really true. For example, I feel like a lot of the younger women in my family, we don't really have the best relationships with our parents. We still do to maintain the harmony, right? But the older women, they are more likely to embrace the norms and the expectations of the culture. It also says that women are key figures in their families and play an important role in developing and maintaining strong family relationships, and positive and supportive ties are the most effective relationships at preventing and reducing loneliness, which again, I highly agree with this. My abuela, my mom, my tias, all of them, they are super important roles in maintaining, family relationships across all generations. And regarding the last sentence, I also agree with this because I feel like I've never quite felt loneliness in my big family. Of course, this cannot be said for everybody. Regarding the cons, Marianismo has been linked to lower likelihood of discussing sexual health, mental health, and physical health. So, Latinas don't really talk about condom use when engaging in sexual intercourse, and Marianismo has been linked to a reluctancy to engage in preventative health practices for breast and gynecological health issues. And Latinos who endorse Marianismo will put off visiting a physician in order to avoid burdening the family or interfering with the role as a caretaker. And while being Latina and identifying with Marianismo didn't have an association with loneliness, it did, however, have an association with depression and poor mental health. And this is because it is very taboo in most Latina families to communicate mental health issues. So how does this relate to the readings? In chapter 2 of the memoir, we learn that Rocio finds happiness in being the caretaker and mother figure for Eduardo despite leaving everything behind. In Spaces of the anthology, we learn that spaces such as hospitals and doctors are seen as negative spaces, which ties into the negative aspects of the research that I just previously discussed in the positive slide. And then in Myths of the anthology, we learn that the Virgin of Guadalupe impacts Chicanas and Latinas on a different way. For some, she is seen as, the ideal qualities of motherhood. She is unselfish, she is giving, she is a very important role model for a lot of women of Latina and Chicana descent. However, she is also sometimes seen by many Chicana writers as a symbol of failure. And this can also be related to, for example, the Statue of Liberty, who's also seen as a figure of failure. And she is seen this way because of how, submissive and docile the teachings of Guadalupe are. And this is my citations. I highly recommend checking out this research study. It was really informative for me. So yeah, thank you everybody.